So you think you know lost media, heard the tales they always tell, but there's more beneath the static, stranger stories time won't sell. Mr. Sean is here, uncovering lore from cellar shelves to old trapdoors. It's lesser known lost media friend, where the weirdest tales begin and end.
Welcome back, Simian Squad, and welcome to Volume 97 2.0, as it were, here on Mr. Sean Productions' lesser-known lost media. I hope you like the new intro. I hope you like the new look. Sorry for the hiatus, but it was a very busy couple of weeks, and thankfully there was the long Memorial Day weekend that I could finally get recovered from everything that went down. I've talked a little about it on some of my previous videos, but it's been hell trying to get into the studio and get, this done, especially with my original audio being deleted. Now, Joe, we're going to save the rest of the updates for the break. If you're new to this, how it works is we start with 4 family-friendly, safe-for-work pieces of lost media, take a brief break, and then we end with a 5th spicy piece. We've done this 96 times already. You know how it goes. Let's begin. Alright, at number 1, we have Lesser Known Lost Media Volume 97 Original Audio. Now, I wish I could say that this was done on purpose, but it was not, guys. So 2 weeks ago, most of the time I get up early in the morning, I record this stuff before work, and then I, work on the video later. And I had just finished recording the original audio for what was going to be Volume 97 of this show. Had to go to work. There's been a lot of rain and storms recently, and apparently the power went out, and it had not saved my original audio. And sadly, I hadn't even bookmarked the pieces that I was covering, so I don't remember what they are. So, there was a different episode of this show about lost media that has itself become lost. It was not finished. I had only done the audio, so the visuals and everything had not been done, but it is gone, and I am unable to find it. So, thank you so much for bearing with me, but what you're hearing now is version 2.0. Enough said. And at number 2, we have Catroots, a lost tech demo of an unreleased Nintendo 64 game from 2000. Now, Catroots was a Nintendo 64 game of unknown genre developed by Marigill Management. I don't know if I said that right. Catroots is a rather mysterious title, as it was never officially announced despite being a playable demo at the E3 2000 event. There are very little details known about the game. So, Catroots was directed by Yoshikawa Hirotsugu, with Hideki Okuma also helping development on the game. A CG animated teaser for the game was shown at E3 2000 on a display at Nintendo's booth. There was also at least one playable demo booth available at the venue, although no information is known about that demo itself. In fact, when IGN asked some of Nintendo of America employees about the mysterious display, their answer was simply, "We were told to put it out there." Eventually, Shigeru Miyamoto himself was interviewed, and he confirmed that the game was being developed by Marigill and that an official announcement on the game was yet to be made. As Catroots was in development late in the N64's lifespan, it may have been cancelled due to the release of the Nintendo GameCube in 2001. So what do we know about the gameplay? Well, a teaser showed cats and mice feuding in a similar style to Tom and Jerry or The Simpsons' Itchy and Scratchy. An unknown portion of the teaser was uploaded by IGN, which shows a red cat getting chased and attacked by a mouse, using weapons like shurikens, a hammer, and a flamethrower. There are also a few other pictures depicting some different scenarios. As of right now, the demo for Catroots has yet to surface. Despite the release of the Nintendo GameCube, Catroots was never reworked or ported onto the GameCube or any subsequent Nintendo system. This one's real interesting to me, guys, because I love Tom and Jerry, and I especially love Itchy and Scratchy, as I love all things Simpsons. And, I definitely think a video game based around that type of cat versus mouse idea, similar to some old Genesis games that I loved that you could play as either the Roadrunner or the Wile E. Coyote, that kind of thing. Anything where you could play as both the predator and the prey, and the scenario would be different, which I'm not sure if that's exactly what this would have been, but it definitely would have been cool to see a game like that, and I'm sad we never got one. At number 3, we have Joseph Stalin's speech of the 19th of August, 1939, which is a lost rumored Joseph Stalin speech, existence unconfirmed, of course, from 1939. Joseph Stalin's speech of the 19th of August 1939 is an alleged secret speech by Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin to the Politburo of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. The purpose of this alleged speech was to justify a strategy to start military conflicts in Europe, expand the communist system of government to other parts of Europe, and collaborate with the 1930s and 40s Germans to form the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. So, some background on this. Born in 1879 as Losif Vissarionovich Dzugashvili, I don't even know how to pronounce that. As a child, he suffered from various ailments that left him slightly deformed. These deformities would cause him to be an outcast among children in his village, though later Stalin would develop a cruel streak for those who crossed him. This cruelty would manifest during his military career, often going out of his way to invade former territories of the Russian Empire. Upon the death of Vladimir Lenin in 1924, Joseph Stalin would prop up the cult of personality around Vladimir Lenin to prove his loyalty to the Communist Party. By 1928, Joseph Stalin had consolidated all power and was generally accepted as the head of the Soviet Union. Now, on August 19th of 1939, members of the Politburo gathered in Moscow to formally hear Joseph Stalin's speech. This alleged speech is significant as it would justify starting a military conflict in Europe to expand the communist system of government to other European nations. Other contents in the alleged speech include concessions to the Nazis in exchange for starting a military conflict, the establishment of a Soviet Germany in case of Germany's defeat, and the annexation of the Baltic Republic into the Soviet Union. Two versions of the alleged speech have since surfaced. The first version was published in the French newspaper Le Temps by the French news agency Havas in 1939. Tatiana Buzheva published another version in the Russian magazine Novy Mir in 1994. Amateur historian Karl O. Nordling published a version of the speech that combines both versions. The article then goes on to read the speech in its entirety, but I'm not going to do that. You can go to the Lost Media Wiki if you'd like to read it. Link will be in the description. Whether Joseph Stalin gave this speech, though, is still up for debate. When Joseph Stalin was asked by the editor of the newspaper Pravda if the speech was made, Joseph Stalin responded with the following statement. The editor of Pravda asked Comrade Stalin, what was Comrade Stalin's attitude to the Havas agency's report about Stalin's speech, allegedly delivered by him at the Politburo on August 19th, where the idea had reportedly been advanced that the war should continue as long as possible to exhaust the warring parties. Comrade Stalin sent the following answer. This message from the Havas agency, like many of its other messages, is a lie. Of course, I cannot know in which particular café chantant this lie was fabricated, but no matter how much the gentlemen from the Havas agency lie, they cannot deny that A. It was not Germany that attacked France and England, but France and England that attacked Germany, taking responsibility for the current war. And B. After the outbreak of hostilities, Germany turned to France and England with peace proposals, and the Soviet Union openly supported Germany's peace proposals because it believed and continues to believe that speedy end to the war would radically ease the situation of all countries and peoples. And C. The ruling circles of France and England rudely rejected both Germany's peace proposals and the Soviet Union's attempts to achieve a speedy end to the war. These are the facts. While Stalin denies that this speech occurred, it should be noted that the Soviet leaders have a tendency to deny things in order to claim plausible deniability. The information about the speech came from the Geneva correspondent Emil Ruffin, who claims to have received the information from a reliable source. Ruffin republished the speech 3 times between 1941 and 1942. 3 weeks after the invasion by Germany of the Soviet Union, Ruffin republished the speech for the first time, adding, "As a result of the war, Western Europe will be subjected to profound destruction. The dictatorship of the Communist Party is possible only as a result of a great war. In the event of Germany's defeat, its Sovietization and creation of a communist government will inevitably follow. If we are clever enough to take advantage of the development of events, we can come to the aid of the communist France and turn it into our ally, as well as all the peoples who have fallen under German tutelage. This 1941 version of the speech places a heavy emphasis on communist expansion into Western Europe. Nazi propaganda would often publish the alleged speech to portray the Nazis as a defender from communism in Europe. As to the meeting itself, while the Soviet government denied that a meeting of the Politburo took place on August 19th of 1939, in 1993, Russian historian Viktor Suvorov, I cannot do these Russian names, guys, I'm sorry, published a hypothesis in the Russian newspaper Izvestia. Suvorov's hypothesis is different, as while Suvorov does acknowledge that a meeting of the Politburo took place, he claims that there was no talk of attacking Germany, and the whole point of the meeting was to defer drafter soldiers to work the railways. Many historians take issue with Suvorov's hypothesis, as it attempts to downplay the role that the Soviet Union had in starting World War II, a common theme in his work. This, however, doesn't necessarily mean that a meeting could have taken place, but it could have taken place in another way. Many decisions of the Politburo tended to be made by the secretary of the Politburo and was adopted by questioning members individually. Proponents of this cite the fact that the Communist Party officials, Vyacheslav Molotov, Anastas Mikoyan, and Alexander, not even gonna try, visited Joseph Stalin's office multiple times over a period of 7 hours on August 19, 1939. Now, so what do we have that's concrete? Well, while a lot of the events in the speech did end up happening, many still question how much of the alleged speech was sensationalized for propaganda usage. It is also not out of the realm of impossibility, as this was in line with Joseph Stalin's policies due to the secretive nature of the Soviet Union and Russian Federation. It is impossible to know for sure if the speech is indeed verified to be true. It could have a lot of ramifications that the Russian government does not want to deal with. So guys, this one's interesting to me, and if you're new to this thing, I always tell why I picked the pieces I did, but my dad is a World War II historian, so I grew up learning a lot about the war, and one of the things that tends to get swept under the rug a lot, especially because history is written by the victors, and Russia was one of the victors, is how closely allied the Soviet Union was with Germany. Yes, for its own selfish purposes, but they were not our allies at the beginning, and only became allies instead of Axis after Germany invaded them. And that is definitely something that, the Russian government now, as well as the Russian government of the time, doesn't really want people focusing on. So, did this speech happen? Maybe. I definitely think it could have, even if it didn't happen when it was said to. A speech like this probably was given by Comrade Stalin. But, we don't know for sure. And that's the beauty of lost media, I suppose. The mystery. At number 4, we have Black Star and the Golden Bat, a partially lost Korean parody film of Golden Bat and Batman from 1979. Black Star and the Golden Bat is a South Korean animated superhero film released in 1979 by the Samyang Film Corporation, Ltd. It is basically a parody of the Japanese Kamishibai character of the same name, merging him with the well-known American superhero character Batman, in the latter's design with yellow color alterations and Golden Bat's characteristics. The film was also released on home video in Spain by an unknown distributor under various titles such as Batman vs. the Black Star Men, or Space Batman, which is a great title, guys. I love Space Batman. In 1990, the film's titular character was parodied in another South Korean parody film under the name of Star Jingangun 2 Super Betaman and Mazinger V, a sequel to the 1988 film Robot Star Jianga. God, I am just losing it today with pronunciations. I think I've gotten most of these wrong. So what's the synopsis of the film, though, guys? A bunch of kids and their pet dog accidentally discover the lair of the villain Black Star, who is kidnapping the world's top scientist to develop a secret weapon. Will Golden Bat, the superhero the kids idolize, be able to rescue them? So yeah, pretty standard synopsis of a 70s superhero flick. Now, as to the availability, while most of the original Korean dub of the film is available online, which footage was apparently recorded when it aired sometime in either 1979 or onwards, it is in extremely poor quality. Some scenes are discolored in blue, has some dialogue missing at the beginning, and there are additionally some scenes missing, which some can be seen in the higher quality Spanish dub. The recording originally surfaced on YouTube sometime in the late 2000s, though the original video was deleted a couple times and re-uploaded on June 11th of 2023. Some screenshots that can be found on some sites that appear to have been taken from the recording that are omitted in the re-upload suggest that the full or more of the film was initially available online. A trailer for the film is stated to exist according to a review document of the film, although that has not been found as of yet. Now, what about home media? Well, in the 1980s, the film received a VHS release by Samhwa Networks and on Betamax. In 2005, the Korean Film Archive released the film on DVD. The releases themselves are extraordinarily rare and hard to come by. The Korean Film Archive privately owns a master tape of the film in their archive. The film never saw further releases, quite possibly to avoid copyright issues with Batman, since the film character's design is of course based off his, and for Golden Bat, the 1967 anime version is one of the latter's few works to be copyrighted. The film's soundtrack received a vinyl record and a cassette release by Hit Record Co., and on the back of the vinyl's release cover, the film's voice cast, which is very obscure, is listed, although they are all uncredited for their roles. Now, we said there was a Spanish dub. At an unknown date, the movie was dubbed in Spanish by an unknown distributor and released on multiple home video releases, which can be easily found on YouTube. Unlike the original Korean version, which is rare to find, the former is in higher quality despite the fade. For unknown reason, the Spanish dub shortens some scenes from the original film and replaces some of the original soundtrack with other tracks, such as Robot by Claude Perraudin in 1978 for their intro, and Taekwondo V that crushes the enemy from the 1976 Korean animated film Robot Taekwondo V. In multiple segments of the Spanish dub, you can hear some of the characters' original Korean speech underneath. So this one's interesting to me, guys. One, because it's a parody of two different characters smashed together in one, but it seems to have been fairly popular in its time, and it's also received multiple home media releases, but apparently this one's not gone per se. It's just incredibly rare and not fully available to the public. I think of most of, there's been a couple times on this channel that we've covered lost media that has then gone on to be found, and I definitely think this will be one of those pieces. It seems like there's enough out there that we can find this in its entirety. As it does exist, it's just a little hard to find right now, but it's not gone. So that's really good. I think that things like this are really helpful to keep people's spirits up in the search for lost media. Alright guys, time for that brief break before we get into the spicy piece. Now normally this would be where I would talk about our KPIs, but all in all, I'm going to stop doing that during these videos. We're not making a lot of progress, and quite frankly, having to talk about it in these videos is bumming me out a little bit. So I'm still going to do the KPIs, but those are going to be released on Friday of each week in just a normal post on the channel's, post section. So if you're interested in how we're doing, you can go there. We're not going to talk about it during these videos anymore. Also, guys, a little bit of updates on this series specifically. You obviously there's been the new intro. My character icon looks a bit different. The thing is, I also have gone back. I will hopefully have finished this task by the time this video airs, and I have changed the title of all of the lesser-known lost media videos to include the dash that it really should have between lesser and known. Apparently that was a grammatical error on my part all the way back when I started this series, and I've just, I've always been like, man, I should really fix it, but then I'd have to go back and fix all of it, and it's like, yes, you know what? We're gonna own that. We're gonna take the time to do it, and it only gets harder to do the longer I wait, because every week another video gets added to the list. So we're going to, we're gonna spruce up the way this things go. We're going to be more professional about it, and we're definitely going to buckle down and try and get those numbers up like we want to. And again, I need your help for that. Please, like, comment, subscribe, watch the videos, share them with your friends. Consider becoming a channel member or a Patreon patron. Also, my Etsy store is live again. I've still got eBay and Mercari as far as, you can buy miniatures, you can buy spicy prints, you can buy my philosophy manifesto Manifesto that I put out earlier this week. That's fun. And also, I've started publishing Call of Cthulhu scenarios over on Drive-Thru RPG. So again, there's a lot of ways you can support the channel, guys, but the best ones you can do is like, comment, subscribe, watch the video, watch the ads, and share it with your friends. Help this channel grow. All right, guys, let's get to that final spicy piece. At number 5 today, we have Joanna Dennehy, The Lost Diary of a British Serial Killer from 2013. So, Joanna Dennehy is a British spree killer who murdered 3 men and attempted to murder 2 others during a series of attacks in Peterborough carried out in March and April of 2013. Dennehy pleaded guilty to her crimes in November of 2013 and became the 3rd woman in Britain after Mira Hindley and Rosemary West to be given a whole life sentence. During her remand at HMP Bronzefield in September of 2013, prison staff discovered that Dennehy had written an elaborate escape plot within her diary, resulting in her being in solitary confinement for at least 2 years. Now, let me say that the information regarding her crimes is very interesting. However, it would take a long time to go all the way through it, and this is not a true crime show. So, if you'd like me to cover her deplorable acts in a different video, please let me know in the comments. But we're going to skip ahead to the lost media involving the escape plot. So, before and after being sentenced for her crimes, Dennehy resided at the HMP Bronzefield until 2021. She was involved in a few incidents during her time there. She threatened to kill fellow inmate Rosemary West, who also had a full life sentence, causing the latter to be transferred to another maximum security prison. The source behind Dennehy's hatred of West likely stemmed from her being against killing women and children as she was a mother. Thus, considering that West, alongside with her husband Fred, did murder women and children, this may have intensified Dennehy's motivation towards killing West. Additionally, she also started a relationship with fellow inmate Haley Palmer, who served 16 years for street robberies, with plans set for them to marry. In 2018, they attempted a failed self-unaliving pact. In 2021, it was reported that Dennehy was transferred to HMP Low Newton after a series of graphic love letters between her and a prison officer were uncovered. Now, in March of 2016, it was reported that Dennehy sued the British government over her being segregated to HMP Bronzefield since September of 2013. In the lawsuit, she claimed that her human rights were being violated and that being placed in solitary confinement had severely damaged her mental well-being and even caused her to inflict self-harm. I'll be honest, guys, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the murderer's, mental well-being. The lawsuit revealed that the reasoning behind her segregation during her reprimand at HMP Bronzefield in September 2013, prison officers were tipped off by 2 Bronzefield inmates that there was a conspiracy that the spree killer was involved in. After examining her diary, they were horrified to discover within a detailed escape plot conjured up between herself and 2 other inmates, one of whom was also serving life. In the escape plans, Dennehy and the other inmates planned to kill a female guard. After doing so, they would not only steal her prison keys, but also sever her fingers so they could use them to fool the biometric system and thus achieve a jailbreak. Another older report indicates that 1 other officer was to be killed and another mutilated for their fingers, though newer reports suggest it was most likely that only 1 officer would be victimized. It is believed Dennehy was to attempt the escape in early September. Once the conspiracy was uncovered, police imposed a lockdown, and Dennehy was sent to solitary confinement for at least 2 years. Lawyers representing the government cited this as justification for her segregation, believing she posed a serious danger and an escape risk. In contrast, Dennehy's defense argued that there was an unfairness as the allegations were not fully elaborated to her, and that the plot was merely a doodle in her diary. In the ruling made on the 26th of May 2016, it was accepted that Dennehy's solitary confinement from the 21st of September of 2013 to the 4th of September 2015 was in fact unlawful, and it was not authorized correctly by then Justice Secretary Chris Grayling. However, it concluded that her further time being segregated was lawful, and that there had been no other violations as alleged by the claimant, including regarding equal treatment. The lawsuit was subsequently dismissed. So what is available from this diary? Well, as this diary contained alleged escape plans, it was confiscated from Dennehy's possession once the plot was uncovered by prison officers. It is unclear whether the plot notes still exist or were ultimately destroyed following the end of the lawsuit. Regardless, it is extremely unlikely this media will ever leak to the public due to the clear security risks it may present at HMP Bronzefield and other British prisons. It is unclear regarding the status of Dennehy's other diary entries, though presumably they share the same fate as the escape plot entry. Now guys, I do watch a lot of true crime here on YouTube. I'm a huge fan of Simon Whistler, specifically The Casual Criminalist is one of my favorites. I'm not officially endorsing him, though I am a fan, and I will say if you enjoy things like that, go give Simon Whistler a look. But the thing about lost media involving serial killers is typically it's like recordings of their crimes or just awful stuff that would be better left never being released and all that. And this one to me is interesting because it's not something of the crimes that made them famous. It's actually, clearly this person has no remorse, has not learned anything from their incarceration, because being told, hey, you killed a bunch of people, you're going to be locked up forever, their instinct was, well, I'm going to escape, and I'm going to kill and maim even further to facilitate that. So clearly this woman is a monster and she deserves to be locked up. Heck, I'd be happy if she was in solitary confinement for the rest of her days. I have zero sympathy for someone who commits heinous acts. Again, we're not getting into those today, but you can definitely check them out, or I would be gladly cover them if that's what you would like. And that's our video today, guys. Thank you so much for your patience with me when I was trying to get this video out, and it took several weeks. Thank you to my biggest supporter, J-Dog, for your continued patronage. Thank you to all of my patrons, even though you don't get the verbal shout-out by name based on your tier. Thank you to everyone who supports this channel, whether that is monetarily or just through your viewership. Again, I greatly appreciate it, and I thank you for your patience in bearing with me these past 2 weeks. Until next time, everybody, I'm Mr. Sean. This is Mr. Sean Productions, and I sincerely hope that you have a great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye.